We were really impressed when we saw Aquador's new 300 HT at the Düsseldorf Boat Show in January. Here it is, quite high-sided, fits an enormous amount into its overall length. And here in Southampton, we've got its little sister, the 250 HT. Now clearly one of the key points of difference here is the fact that the larger model has inboard propulsion in this configuration, which enables it to factor in that lovely fold down aft facing seat. Well, we don't get that here on the smaller model because there's just not the room. What we have is outboard propulsion, and this is currently the only option, the 250 horsepower V8 Mercury. So of course a fold down aft facing settee there is simply not going to work. What they've done instead though is use that space for a little tuck away cavity for 4 fenders, plus an additional locker on the starboard side there for your lines, and a rail to make your way from side to side across these big platforms. And while we're talking about the platforms, well, in classical Nordic fashion, once again we have a stern anchor, and it's very nicely tucked away in here, as you can see. Really neatly done that. And on the starboard side we've got a little rail just above that telescopic swim ladder to pull yourself out of the water comfortably. What you'll notice here though is that in order to make the very most in terms of internal volume on a 25-footer, well, the side decks are distinctly narrow, and so are the steps to access them. I mean, if you compare that step to my hand, you'll see how compact that actually is. But that makes pretty good sense in principle, because as you can see straight away, there's a good bit of volume in that cockpit. So let's take a little walk up and along these side decks right now. And the first thing I notice as I plant my foot is that above me there's a perfectly positioned grab rail to haul yourself up onto the side deck, and it really isn't very wide, but we do have rails all the way along this hard top and a sunken cleat there, so we're not causing a trip hazard. That'd be even better if that was mounted on the side of the mouldings instead of on the walkway itself. This is eco teak rather than natural teak, by the way, so zero maintenance and better for the environment. It's good all round. The rails elevate as we get towards the bow, which is handy. They come just above the knee, give you a bit of extra security there. And here in the centre we have a little island sunbed. There are infills here, but because it's the show, they've left the central infill off, so we can get extra light down in that forward cabin to make it feel just that bit brighter. And up in the bow, well, the anchor is permanently mounted just there on the stem. So we've got a proper step-through forepeak, again in the Nordic style. Plus a neat little LED light, so you can see the rocks or the beach you're nosing into. Now let's head back down the port side. Again, even though we've got the fillers up here, the waste points, the fuel points, I have to say this is a much easier operation than I anticipated. And here on the port side, because we don't have access to the cockpit from this side, we've got slightly wider but still very narrow steps. And again, I have to say, small though they are, they work well. So far, these compromises that the Aquador designers are making seem to be working very well. The inside of this boat is pretty cool too. In terms of the general arrangement, we've got an L-shaped galley on the starboard side, and that sits opposite an L-shaped dining area on the port side, a pretty big dining area. There are also little angled cutaways on the seats and on the galley in order to preserve access via that companionway to the forward seats, to the helm and down to the cabins. We also have little angled sections on these fold-out leaves for the table, so even when that's properly deployed, you still get a decent walkway all the way through. Before we get to all of that though, let's head back after this access point on the starboard side, because that's your sole access point to the cockpit, and take a little look at that. We have the shore power down here. It leads from a little cutaway in this door, and we also have, yeah, the battery switches in there as well. It's not ideal, of course, that it sits on your sole point of access to the cockpit, but tuck it behind the door, or indeed under the door, and you can wrap it around the cleat as they have done here, keep it out of harm's way. Now the galley itself, we've got a decent size of stainless steel sink, plus a single induction hob and a bit of work surface, and one of these neat little features, this little automatic light. You usually see those on the foredecks of day boats, just to give you an ambient glow. It works equally well down in here. There's not sufficient space underneath here for anything realistically except storage, as you can see. But if I nip round the corner here, you'll see that the base for this galley and for the twin helm seat is profitably used for a nice big 65 litre fridge. That comes as standard. And if you want to ramp up your refrigeration capacity, you can also have an optional fridge, a 30 litre unit, sliding out from beneath the co-pilot seat on the port side. As on the 300 though, what I particularly like in this section of the boat are the storage solutions. Now, beneath the deck here, you see that hinges up. That's quite a shallow space because it's pretty much a technical area. But if we lift up these seats, you'll see it's easy to do one-handed. You don't have to remove the cushions, and they're beautifully lined, nice and deep as well. It's the same over on the port side. If I lift this one, easy access, and that's divided into two sections to stop small bits rattling about. Really effective, that. Let's pop those back down and move a little further forward, because we've got good storage under the central section of this deck as well. Open up these little catches and take a look in there. That's another pretty good space. It seems like a faintly peculiar space to put your reservoir for your window washer, but there it is in the aft part of that space on the port side for the washers, which are up there at the helm, of course. You'd think they could find something a little closer than that, but it works well enough, I dare say. Now let's move slightly forward again. As you see, the mouldings on both sides begin to lift a little. That helps factor in extra volume down below, which is of course very important for a compact cruiser like this. And on the port side, just beneath that additional third seat, we've got another hatch and another lined storage space. Now these are easy things for a manufacturer to economise on. So given the price point of this particular boat, it's really impressive to see Aquador take the storage so seriously. And what else it's taken seriously is shelter from the elements. Now, a downpour kicked off a second ago, so we opened up this door. We have one of these on either side, and in these cabinets there are canvases that slide through these guides all the way around to the back end, where they zip together and clip down onto these toggles to keep them taut. And within perhaps 30 or 40 seconds of the rain kicking off, you have an entirely sheltered cocoon. Really effective system, that. But while we're up here, let's take a look at the helm station, because that's quite satisfying too. Now, even though we've got that galley directly behind it, we do have adjustability for this entire bench, and we also have individual bolsters rather than just the one, so you and your co-pilot can make yourselves comfortable. There's also adjustability at this wheel, as you can see, and if I pop myself into position here, you'll see that this, I'll just lift that wheel up. That looks faintly silly, doesn't it? You'll see that the dash is really quite pared back. We've got a couple of 12-inch plotters here, but I would say we've probably got space for a couple of 16-inch plotters if you want them. And above that, we've got a little lid that lifts. So we've got a USB point in there, and we've also got a wireless phone charger plus storage trays. Again, compartmentalised slightly so stuff doesn't rattle about. Vents, of course, to keep you warm, demist those windows. There's a low level vent down there should you choose diesel heating. What else we have here is just a little bit of switchgear, a couple of drained cup holders, plus a handle, a good sturdy handle for the guy at the co-pilot seat to hold on to should he need to. A little foot brace down below, and then everything you want to your right hand. We've got the anchor controls, and we have the bow thruster plus the tabs, a zip wake system there, and the throttle to your right hand. There is a little rubberized ledge here that slightly gets in the way if you want to throttle on with a full fist there, which is not absolutely perfect in terms of ergonomics, but it's certainly not far off. Now let's head down below and take a look at the accommodation, because even though this is just a 25-foot boat, it looks and feels like a cruiser, so you want the accommodation to be fairly decent, and it is. And that's a good size of bed we see there, with proper hull windows on both sides and a mirror at the end, in between those reading lights, plus a hatch up above, and plenty of light coming down from the curved sliding door at the access point. On the 300 we had another good storage space in here. It's the same here, but you do have to slightly lift up the mattress first. Then we can lift that up, that's better, and hold that. Now the rams are not quite strong enough to hold the mattresses up on top of that. But in here again we've got a really big lined space and what looks like a storage bracket for a table leg. We also have this, which looks like the base for a table leg, which peculiarly enough is screwed into this fiberglass. I cannot understand what that's all about. So we'll move hastily on. Now here, in addition to the base mattress, we've got an additional topper here for extra luxury. I think that's an option on the 300 as well. We've also got nice little cushions on both sides, so you don't bang your shoulders on cold fiberglass. And that's a really, really good size of bed. But it does look to me, when we're stationary, that maybe this end of the bed, the aft end, is slightly elevated compared to the forward end. So if it were me, I might be sleeping with my head aft for extra comfort. Now on the port side we have the heads compartment. We don't have full standing headroom here. If I point the camera around and straighten myself up, you'll see that the fiberglass comes around halfway up your face. You do need to stoop a little and stoop again to get into the heads compartment itself, but it's a good size with good light, natural ventilation, everything you need. And of course it operates as a wet room. This is, after all, in spite of its proportions, a proper little cruiser. And then on the opposite side, a nice big storage space. That's my gear cluttering that up, sorry Aquador, but good hanging storage and additional shelves. And after that, beneath the helm station, this is the helm station itself, so beneath the cockpit sole I should say, is an additional double. I wouldn't actually call it a double, it's not far off. When you slide yourself in here, there's plenty of vertical height, so you don't hit your head as you're doing so. But if you're particularly clumsy and you do hit your head, well, there's a nice soft touch panel here, so it doesn't hurt too much. And when I'm in here, I'm 6 foot. If I slide my feet right down to the end, I've still got a good 3 or 4 inches above my head. And there's a nice curved, soft touch bulkhead here on my left shoulder, which is very comfortable indeed. I suggest if you were planning on spending the night here as an adult couple, then you should pick this side, because on the other side we've got quite an aggressive hard fiberglass edge which doesn't look entirely comfortable. In truth though, of course, this is for a couple of kids. It's for a family of 4, so 2 adults forward, 2 kids in here. But there's no doubt that at a pinch, if you've got a couple of adult friends who want to come along for a weekend's cruise, this little extra bed served perfectly well. I feel pretty much the same then about this boat as I did when I first saw the 300 HT on its show stand in Dusseldorf. It just factors so much into the available length, and it does so while looking good. It has those raised hull sides and a relatively low profile looking pilot house that manages to look quite modern, quite cool in spite of all that volume. Now I haven't yet driven it, but what I will say right now is that this 250 HT seems to me to be very compelling value indeed. It starts at £150,000 plus VAT, and that is about £105,000 less than its big sister.